Hey there, Dr. Ray here, CEO and founder of the Learning Liaisons, and welcome to our Math 6 through 12 webinar recording. I'm so excited that you guys are going to get the opportunity to watch this recorded webinar that we conducted here in May 2020. So sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, take some notes, and watch our math director, Anderson Duran, as he leads you through a set of practice problems that you will see on your Math 6 through 12 exam. This is for our Florida teacher certification folks, as well as our Praxis peeps out there. Big shout out to our Praxis teachers engaging in our course, as well as our FTCE peeps. So relax, make sure you comment, like, and subscribe to our channel. Have any questions about what Anderson talked about? Comment below the video, and you'll see some links in the description if you want extra practice and get everything you need to pass your Math 6 through 12 exam. We cover all the competencies, all the skills. We have the best resources out there when it comes to practice and understanding the concepts, because that is the key to passing your teacher certification exam. So Dr. A here, CEO of the Learning Liaisons. I'm going to tell you what I tell all of our teachers around the country. It's when you pass, not if you pass your certification exams. It's all about the mindset. Let's get it right. Enjoy the video, and we'll see you at the end for some special details.
This is national right now, so we're going to make this thing happen. So before we begin, we got to talk about how this webinar goes. If you've been to a webinar before, you know exactly what I'm going to say. So again, guys, look, you get access to this recording. We're going to be uploading it to YouTube in the next coming days. You can absolutely ask questions. Absolutely. I invite questions because at the end of the day, I want to make sure that, hey, look, if you're stuck, admit it. It's okay. I'm here to teach you. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to grade you. I'm only here to help you take the next step. And so what happens is, a lot of folks think that just watching and learning is enough in math. But the thing is, math is like a language, and you can also compare it to a sport. The fact of the matter is that if you're trying to prepare to play a sport, you can't just read the rule book or watch people do it. You have to do it yourself. And so part of this process is practice. We're going to have just about 5 to 6 questions we're going to be going over today. And I want to make sure you understand. That's why I'm taking a long time on this part. I want to make sure that you understand that trying is key. If you're not trying, you're forfeiting that opportunity to grow. So with that said, moving on up here. This webinar is going to last for just about 75 to 90 minutes. I'm going to make sure, I will absolutely be sure to respect your time and get us out of here within that 1 hour and 30-minute mark. And obviously, this webinar alone will not prepare you for this exam. I know a lot of us attend our GK ones or our Praxis Core ones, and they're fun, right? And you can pick up some tips and tricks in those webinars to help further you significantly. Absolutely. That's especially true here. The only thing is that there are just about 81 skills on this one. So instead of 21 for the GK or Praxis Core, there's like 81 on this one. And those are all the main topics. There's obviously subtopics therein. So I want to make sure that everybody here is aware that this webinar alone is not going to prepare you. But with that said, we're obviously very different than study guides. Study guides trick you into memorizing questions and making you believe that you're going to see those exact same questions on the test. And so while these companies go and take the test to make those problems, which is unethical, although they do that, yes, maybe 1 or 2 questions will be on it. But when you're thinking about the grand scheme of things, out of 56 questions in some cases, out of 85 in another, there's a lot of questions. And so memorizing 2 or 3 of them and seeing them on your test, that's not going to help you out at all. And that's the study guide trap. And I don't want you guys to fall into that. All right. And also make sure you have your phone ready to go. We're going to use our phones and our cameras to scan some things, get some YouTube stuff up, because with the Learning Liaisons, and we're putting up a bunch of new content in the next coming days and weeks, we realize that people need to learn more about the actual certification process, more so or equal to how they prepare for the test themselves. So we want to do our job here and make sure that we are continuing to lead the way in all this mess. So with that said, everybody, pull out your phones. I'm going to count to 60 right here. You got 60 seconds. Pull out your phone, look at the camera, and go ahead and scan that QR code. It's really easy. You actually just point your phone at it, and it actually scans it for you automatically. So discovered that a couple months ago, and that kind of blew my mind, even though I'm on the younger side. But with that said, again, I'm going to give us 60 seconds here. Got 45 seconds left. And in the meantime, let us know if this is your first time or the second time in the 612 webinar, because I ran one a couple of weeks ago. I want to see who was here from last time and whose first time it is. Oh, welcome, Stacy. First time. Sounds good. You're going to enjoy this. I promise you, you will. Same thing with you, Natasha and Nertila. That's a lot of first timers. Wow, that's a lot of folks. Man, Ashley, Tisha, or Tisha, sorry. Let me know which one it is. I hate misspelling names or mispronouncing names. So go ahead and let me know. Amy, welcome. Nadine, welcome. Anaida, welcome. Lee, welcome. Everybody. Wow, that's a lot of folks. Second time. There we go. There we go, Sheila. Watched it on YouTube. Hey, there we go. Sounds good. And that is time. Thank you, guys. Thank you for those YouTube subscribes. Again, we're going to be posting a lot of content, and there's already a lot of stuff there. But before we begin, I want to make sure that you understand just a little bit about who I am, so that you don't just see me as some guy on the internet that you'll probably never meet, just spewing stuff at you. I'm a teacher. I'm a math teacher. I've been a math teacher since I graduated college. And honestly, I've never fallen out of love with the profession. I went back to get my master's in math education, and that was at UCF. So go Knights. If there's any USF Bulls here, you can leave. But my official role with the Learning Liaisons is the mathematics director. And then I also direct the learning and development side of things. And again, it's just been an absolute honor to be able to see people like you succeed, secure their classroom positions, and then help 100 to 150 kids every single year. And by affect them, I mean literally change their lives. So, to those of you guys out there trying to get certified, keep on pushing. It's worth it. I promise you it is. So let's just go ahead and dive in here to the FTCE and Praxis 612 math stuff, guys. So in the FTCE and Praxis, every single one of these competencies are all aligned with each other. Every single one, with the exception of 10. 10 is FTCE only. All right. And this is the teaching side of it. This is where you're talking about the math and how you would remediate or respond to certain situations in the classroom environment. Now, these questions are going to be on Praxis as well, but they're not in the Praxis content. The content focuses specifically on the actual subject matter. Now, there's the Praxis 2, and that covers the teaching side of it, and you will most definitely see questions in that category in there. So with that said, give me a yes or a no, and there's no shame in either response. Give me a yes or a no as to whether or not you knew or have looked at this information before. So have you known this? Have you had this in front of you? And be honest, because it's okay if you didn't. I just want to make sure that everyone is heard here. And again, if everybody's done it, then I don't want to waste my breath. But then if some people haven't, I want to make sure I give you the proper information. So if I'm guessing right now, just from the flow here, it looks like about 80% of us, 75% of us have seen this before. And that's good. So give me a yes or no. Is the math easy? Nice, Natasha. So I'm seeing a lot of no's, right? So let's go ahead and take a second so that we can truly feel what this test is, because I'm not into the whole, hey, there's a one size fit all for everything. Watch this. Let's go over each competency. Knowledge of algebra, that's essentially algebra 1. Knowledge of advanced algebra, that's essentially algebra 2. Knowledge of functions, also covering algebra 2. Covers pre-calculus. Oops. And those two main ones, it'll cover there. Geometry. All right, that's pretty obvious. That's geometry. Knowledge of coordinate geometry and knowledge of trigonometry. So this is kind of like where we get into honors geometry. And then some early trig. And I'll go ahead and move that over. That way everybody can see those percentages on the side. When we're looking at knowledge of trigonometry, that is easily trigonometry. And at the same time, this also covers pre-calculus. Knowledge of statistics and probability. Obviously, that's stats, but it's not heavy stats. It really isn't. when you're looking at the stats portion, this is more so on the algebra 2 side of stats. All right. This is more so on the algebra 2 side of stats. So it's not terribly difficult in the sense of you don't have to learn a bunch of new theorists and all these things. You're good. It's really, as far as it goes in terms of complication, is standard deviation. And if you've heard of it before, that's already a good thing because you can just refresh as long as it may take, but you can refresh as opposed to start totally anew. And then we have knowledge of calculus. Obviously, this is calculus 1. And this isn't like the AP level type calculus, so thankfully it's not. But what it is it's more so just like your calc honors, and that's the base level calculus. There is no just calculus flat, at least in Florida, but we have calc honors as like kind of the start off point. But no matter what I just said, doesn't matter. Calculus is calculus. It's not going to be super easy. If you don't know these courses very well, calc's going to be a little tougher. But I'm not saying that to discourage anybody from taking the 612. I'm only saying that because look at the percentage of the test questions that are going to be related to that competency. 9% for calculus. That is the 4th or 5th lowest, I believe, because the absolute lowest is right here. And then we have over here. So it's the 7th least or 4th least, either way. But from there, knowledge of mathematical reasoning, this is logic. So this logic comes from geometry mostly. But logic is the key there. And then your teaching strategies are pretty self-explanatory. So let's be real about this. We are covering every class from Algebra 1 to Calculus. It's not going to be easy. And so if you're really planning on taking this test and passing it in your next attempt, what I'm trying to tell you is that you're going to have to make a plan. And along with that plan, you're going to have a lot of intent behind it. You need to have the intent behind it because you're going to have to section this off chunk by chunk and keep building off of each other in terms of each and individual skill. Because once you have it down, you're good to go. And it's something that builds off of each other as you keep going down the competency. So that is a good thing. So with that said, how are we feeling so far about our confidence? On a scale of 1 to 10, how are we feeling about our confidence if we were to take the test tomorrow? All right, we got a 7, 6, 5, 0, 8, 7, 6s, 5s. All right, cool. That's good so far. I love it. Hey, there's no reason to say an LOL with a 5 there. That's completely okay. Because the thing is, if we're being honest with ourselves, then we can find that path forward a lot quicker than that person who's lying to themselves, either thinking that they're over-prepared or they just can't do it at all. Because when you're honest with yourself and you say, hey, this is where I honestly think I am because of X, Y, and Z, then boom, you have to focus on X, Y, and Z. So with that said, everybody, let's go ahead and keep things simple. Because the thing is, no matter what the problem is, no matter what type it is, there is a general strategy that's not going to help you get it automatically right, but it will help you maintain discipline so that you can find that right answer without all the anxiety. Because if I had to guess, is it fair to say that anxiety probably causes people's scores to go down by at least 10% sometimes in some really bad cases? Because I've seen it kill people in terms of, hey, I'm not even going to take this test. So how bad do you think anxiety affects test takers sometimes? Especially those that don't even want to teach math, right? Think about it. If you're taking the 612 math test, it's very likely that you want to teach this. But think about those that hate math and then they still have to take the GK math. It kills them, absolutely kills them, right? And so let's make sure that with this strategy here, we're making sure that we're not going to trip up like that. So here's a 3-step strategy. The first step is all about the context. So the problem itself, not the numbers, but the situation. All right. We're talking about the situation. So what's the conversation about? Try not to talk about math. That is the key. If it is a pure mathematical problem, then you want to point out any obvious things that you see mathematic-wise. So what I mean is recognizing a keyword like find the sum or product, or noticing that it's 2 binomials and you need to distribute, things like that. Noticing obvious things that are part of the problem to help you get the whole thing right. Because once you know what the general idea is and what you're trying to accomplish, that's when you can start making that mathematical plan. That's when you start looking for every piece of given information that relates to that question. And once you have that plan developed, once you have that given information, and you make the connection between what you have and what you're trying to solve for, then you follow that plan. Because the thing is, your calculator is a tool. And before you pick it up, you got to make sure you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, well, guess what? It's going to be a lot harder to solve these problems because you're spending more time picking up a calculator without knowing what you're doing. And two, you don't know what you're doing. So your calculator's in your hand for no reason at all. So think about your calculator like a car. You're not going to get in your car unless you know where you're going first. Okay? So with that said, here's today's theme, giving you a taste of our upcoming 612 Math Bootcamp. It's going to be out this Sunday, May 10th. And my primary rule, remember, is try your best regardless of whether you think you're right or wrong. So with that said, if you're ready, type hashtag when you pass in the chat box, please and thank you, because we're going to get this party started. Booyah. Yeah, we're going to ace this thing. We got to make sure, though, that we're paying attention to each and every problem here and doing what we got to do to make that progress. So question number 1 is going to come up first, everybody, and here's how this is going to work. I'm going to time us, give us just about 2 minutes and 15 seconds per question. All right. Some questions I may give more, some I may give less. But for this first one, you're going to get 2 minutes and 15 seconds. 3, 2, 1, go. I'll be right back. But do not reveal your answer. Simply type ready or confident in the chat box, depending on which one you're feeling. All right, looks like this one's tripping some people up, and that's okay. I'll give an extra 30 seconds here to see if we can get that right answer. And so in about that 30 seconds, we'll make sure to share our answers, whether we believe we're right or wrong. And 3, 2, 1. What do we got? And if you're feeling not so confident or maybe ran out of time, just go ahead, give it a guess and say that it was a guess. So what are our answers? All right, got B, and that was a guess. 6, that was a guess. 5, A, 6, B. Okay. So we're kind of thinking between A and B, right? A lot of us are thinking between A and B. Forgot how to solve this. No worries, no worries. All right, so let's go ahead then. Let's go ahead and see what's up here. Let's see what we got. So in the problem, let's go ahead and read it out together here. So it says, suppose 3 consecutive integers, where each integer is greater than 50, are multiplied together. Which of the following must be a factor of such a product? All right. So with that said, yes, you can use a calculator. But with that said, you're looking at this, and the question is, which of the following must be a factor of such a product? So if I'm reading this, okay, the question is, which of the following must be a factor of such a product? Now, if I'm reading this, I know what factor means, and that means like what can multiply in there. Product, that means what's multiplied together. So what are they referring to when they say product? So I'm going to search for that information, and I see this right here. Multiply together. What's multiplied together? 3 consecutive integers where each integer is greater than 50. Sorry, I've been talking all day that my mouth is just tired. But yeah, so we're looking at this, and it says, okay, we're looking for the factor of the product, and that product is 3 numbers being multiplied together. All of those numbers are greater than 50. Okay. Everybody, what does the term consecutive mean in terms of integers? What's that going to mean to us? Right. One after the other, Natasha, right? Exactly, Lee. One after the other. So what they're saying is, well, one after the other, they should be multiplied. So something like 51 times 52 times 53, right? Yeah, actually, exactly. If we want to represent it algebraically, we could say, hey, n, some number, right? Well, the next number is going to be n plus 1 because you're just adding 1 to it. And then the next one after that would be n plus 1 and then another one. But we're not going to be redundant there and write plus 1 twice. Let's just go ahead and write n plus 2. But there we are right now. If we wanted to represent it in terms of algebra, we could say it'd be n plus 1 and n plus 2 together. So with that said, I'm looking at this, and we're going to multiply them together. But this doesn't really help me out too much, and here's why. This is a number theory problem. They're asking you which of the following must be a factor of such a number. And there's a key word in this purple question here. There is a key word that will tell you exactly what you can do in this problem. Does anybody know what that key word is? And I promise you, it's not factor or product. I can promise you that right now. What is the key word in this problem that really sticks out? Must. Exactly. Exactly, Chantel and Tresha. Yes, must. Must. Must in this problem means that it has to be true. Which of these has to be, no matter what? No matter what do you mean? No matter what numbers you use. No matter what numbers you use, one of these is going to be a factor if you multiply 3 numbers together. So with that said, just try this out. 51 times 52 times 53. You can try it out by cases. You can say 60 times 61 times 62. You can try it out by cases. And I can guarantee that you can get it done that way. But I'm here to teach you the most effective way. And so you got to know your number theory. Everybody, let me ask you this. If I had, let's go ahead and say 3 numbers back to back. Let's say it's even, odd, even, or odd, even, odd. No matter what number has to be a factor of a multiplication of all 3 of those? If we're looking at an even number, then an odd one, then an even, what number has to be a factor? What's the smallest number that has to be a factor? It would have to be 2, because if you have an even number, That's divisible by 2. So at the very least, no matter what, you can divide by 2. And everybody, how many numbers are we dealing with again? We're dealing with 3 numbers, right? And think about the number 3. 3, then 6, then 9, then 12, and in between, look at that, a group of 3. You can do a group of 3 like this. You can do a group of 3 like that. It doesn't matter. No matter what, if you have a list of 3 back-to-back numbers, one of them is guaranteed to be a multiple of 3. Does everybody see that now? So one of these is guaranteed to be a factor, or a multiple, sorry, of 3. And so if it's divisible by 3 and divisible by 2, the number has to be divisible by what then? Exactly. If it's divisible by 3 and divisible by 2, it has to be divisible by 6. And so let me just go over it one last time in short. Because we have 3 consecutive numbers, you're going to have an even number in there somewhere, all right? You're going to have an even number in there somewhere. It could be even, or odd, even, odd. An even number has to be in there. And so therefore, the number 2 is a factor. Then we notice that we're dealing with 3 numbers back to back. 3 numbers, no matter what. So with that said, 3 also has to be a factor in there somewhere too, because, again, every third number is a multiple of 3. So because 2 and 3 are the factors, 6 has to be the factor. That's the correct answer. How are we feeling? How are we feeling about this problem? Natasha feeling pretty good. All right. You got to practice. No worries. Hey, that's what we're here for. We're here to try it out, see how we do it, then try it out ourselves. Yeah, practice. Sounds good. Sounds good. So with that said, remember to keep things simple, guys. Start off with the question itself. Mark off the information, and then go back and see what you can tie in. I started off the first problem with that was a medium level question. That was definitely not the hardest question I could have asked. Definitely not the easiest. That was a middle ground question that I asked. For this next one, this is something that should be a little more familiar, something more on the GK side. We got to be able to do these as well. So I'm going to give us 1 minute and 45 seconds. Go. Alrighty, we're looking at our last 10 seconds here. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. What do we got, everybody? Got B, got D, got B. All right, let's see. All right, some more B's again. Who was lost, or did anybody run out of time here? Remember, be honest. It's all about being honest here. So let's go ahead and go over it together. Let's see what the answer is. Let's go ahead. A store is having a sale on walnuts and almonds. A customer who purchased 4 pounds of walnuts and 8 pounds of almonds paid $25, whereas a customer who purchased 3 pounds of almonds and 2 pounds of walnuts paid a total of $10. Which of the following systems of equations accurately represents the relationship between A and W, the number of pounds of almonds and walnuts, respectively? All right, so let's go ahead and go over it here. I'm going to look at the question first because the situation, all I read was almonds and walnuts. So that's what stood out to me. I mean, it's pretty safe to say that destination, what's going on, we're talking about almonds and walnuts. And the question states, hey, which of the following systems of equations, so we're trying to make a system of equations, accurately represents the relationship between almonds and walnuts? So far, everybody, give me a yes or no in the chat box. Give me a yes or no. Are we good in terms of the destination aspect of this problem? Do we understand that almonds and walnuts stood out to us the entire way through, and we're trying to represent them with a system of equations? Perfect. So the next step has to be the following. The next step has to be going through the problem itself and marking every instance that relates A and W, or each of them individually, to understand what these things are. So let's get to it. Going through. First sentence, there's no number attached to almonds and walnuts. They're just saying that, hey, this is the sale. Next, customer who purchased 4 pounds of walnuts and 8 pounds of almonds paid $25. And then it continues on to say, whereas, so on the other hand, a customer who purchased 3 pounds of almonds, 2 pounds of walnuts, paid a total of $10. And so notice how I'm marking all those key terms there. If I'm going through this, 4 pounds of walnuts and, everybody, what does the word and mean in math? Great, means add. And we're going through, and 8 pounds of almonds paid. What is that going to translate to in math? What is the word paid going to translate to? Equal, exactly. We got to work on those key terms that we're looking at here, these key words. Paid means equals $25. And so with that said, we're going to write that out. I'm going to write that out in green. 4 pounds of almonds. Oh, whoops. Can't even get confused there. I highlighted it. Walnuts. And meaning plus 8 pounds of almonds. Paid equals $25. All right. And so if I'm rewriting this, I know that A represents almonds and W represents walnuts. So with that said, that turns right into 4W plus 8A equals 25. All right. So far, are we good? Does this make sense? Does this make sense in terms of, hey, I can translate that English into math because I outlined what those key terms meant? Good. Perfect. It's sensible, right? I'm using an intuitive approach. I'm using our sense of liking English more than we like math to get this done. Now, moving forward, whereas a customer who purchased 3 pounds of almonds. So we're going to go ahead and say, hey, 3 pounds of almonds. This is going on in our heads. And we said it already. That means plus 2 pounds of walnuts. Paid a total of $10. So basically, 3A plus 2W equals 10. Did anybody get tricked by this question in terms of the order in which you wrote the variables? And it's okay if you did. As I know a couple of us did, we may have chosen B or D when the other was the actual one. So with that said, now that we have these two equations, we now have the system. Guys, we now have the system, so I can move this off to the side, put these together, and when I read my answer choices, I see that they have the A's up first. So all I'll do is just take this, move it over here, move that over there, and I'm good. So everybody, the correct answer is booyah. The answer is B. Good. All right, and I saw that someone asked about solving it for the values. Guys, this question is only about setting it up. And we have plenty more questions here to practice with, but feel free to post this question in our Facebook group so that we can all solve it together in there. All right, I want to make sure I get to all of these problems that we got, but at the same time, remember to keep it simple. Destination, start off with the context, and again, ask yourself, what's the question? What are we trying to figure out here? Because once you identify the question, then you can identify how to answer it. And that's by looking at the given information that relates to that question. And from there, make your plan if you need to solve for anything. In that case, we didn't, so that step got eliminated for us. And that's what made it a little easier because all we had to do was set it up. But 80% of the work in any problem is setting it up. So I want to make sure that we know how to do that and we know how to follow through and finish up. So is anybody making good use of this strategy so far? If not, or if so, let me know what it is about it that's helping you. So again, is destination plan follow helping you out in even the slightest way? And if so, how? Exactly. It is a roadmap. It allows you to basically pull out your GPS and feel a little more confident about the process that you're going through. Exactly. So with that said, we're going to dive into the next one. I'm going to wait a couple seconds here in case anybody wants to continue sharing. Having a process, right, Marty? Exactly. It's good to have that process so that you know if you're clear to go to the next step. All right, next problem. Boom, here it is. I'm going to give us 2 minutes one more time. 3, 2, 1, go. And 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. What do we got? Let's go ahead. Let's share these answers. What do we have? What do we have? And if you're taking a guess, take a guess. Again, I want to know where we're at so far. I want an honest look as to where we are. So A, D, -13, no idea. All right. Again, some A here, okay. So it looks like we're a little spread out here. It looks like we may not have that clear understanding of what's actually happening in this question. But the thing is, this is the great thing about this test. It's made up of a bunch of individual skills. And each of those individual skills, you can learn them because it's not tested to the point of having to synthesize a bunch of crazy stuff. No, you're good. You just have to know it enough to be able to recognize certain things. So here's what I mean. Which of the following roots of the polynomial function above, so which of the following roots of the polynomial function above has a multiplicity greater than 2? So everyone, if this was a game show and I gave you a lifeline to ask what the definition of any one of these highlighted pieces is, which word or phrase would you want defined for you? So we see multiplicity pop up, we see root pop up, but then we see a flood of multiplicity come in, right? And yeah, multiplicity is that word that we really want to define. If we knew what this word meant, this problem would be a lot easier. And so this is a strategy that I want you to implement when you're practicing at home. So take a second to write this down. When you read the question and you see a vocabulary term or a phrase that doesn't immediately stand out to you, it's either that you forgot it or you don't know it. And in either case, you have to write it down and review it. So no matter what, whether you say, oh yeah, I know, I just need to refresh, or I have no idea what it is, doesn't matter what spectrum you fall on, you got something to improve on, write that down. Multiplicity is what I am working on. All right, so take a moment to write down that, hey, I gotta learn multiplicity. But here's the definition of multiplicity. Multiplicity means the number of times a root or zero of a function appears. All right, so write that down. Multiplicity is the number of times that a root or a zero of a function appears. And more specifically, it's a polynomial function since we're talking polynomials, but we're going to talk about what that means in the sense of this problem. So now that we've gotten a chance to write out pretty much most of that, let's talk about it in terms of this problem. Everyone, let's go ahead and take it back to the easier part of algebra. So not this crazy stuff. Let's talk, let's say we're looking at a problem like, oh, x plus 2 times, x minus 5 equals 0. This is a lot easier than what we're doing right now, right? So let's just focus on this for one moment. Everybody, how do we solve this if we're at this step already? If we're trying to find out what x is, how do we solve this again? So which one would it be? Is it foiling or setting each factor to 0? Which one is it? I'm asking how we would solve this, guys. I'm asking how. I know we're getting excited trying to solve it, but how do we solve? Right, we're going to set each factor equal to 0. It's the zero product property. Because the thing is, everybody take a second to look at this. If we're looking at the x plus 2 versus the x minus 5, the fact of the matter is we want these to equal 0. But everybody, what's going on right here? Between these two parentheses, what's happening? Right, we're multiplying. And the thing is, because we're multiplying, everybody, if this side here, if this parentheses was 0, would it matter what was over here? Would the equation still be true if we figured out what made this one 0? The answer is yes, actually. It would be true. Because the thing is, 0 times anything, everybody, is what? Yeah, 0 times anything is still 0. And what does the right side of the equation equal? 0. So if we figured out what made this thing 0, then that's going to be 0 times whatever. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it off to the side and do x plus 2 equals 0. Because if I can figure out what makes this one 0, then again, when you plug in that x, it's going to be 0 times whatever this is, and it's still going to be 0. That's the thing. Because you're multiplying, you can split these factors up into their own equations to figure out what makes those factors 0. Because when they multiply, it's going to be 0 regardless. So this is what I'm trying to get at, everybody. You solve this and you get x equals -2 and x equals +5. That's because you subtract 2 on both sides there and add 5 on both sides of the other side. But look, when we're checking this out, you see that the x equals -2 and x equals 5, they each appear once. So if we're having this talk on multiplicity, to bring it back to that talk on multiplicity, watch this. If this was a brand new equation, if instead of all of this, what if the equation was x minus 2 squared? If it's x plus 2 squared, is that not the same thing as saying x plus 2 times x plus 2 times x minus 5? Is that not the same thing, everybody? Right. And that's because anything squared is that number multiplied by itself, right? So if we're going to solve this the same way that we did last time, we're going to set each of the factors equal to 0. Because again, because we're multiplying between the terms, if one of them is 0, then they're all 0. So let's just figure out each one at 0 and have those answers ready to go. So same thing here, x plus 2 equals 0, x equals -2. We're going to say the same thing. Looks like I'm going to do the same work again. I love doing the same work twice, right? And then here we have that x minus 5 equals 0 to get x equals 5. So everybody, what do we notice about that -2? Right, that -2 appears twice. It shows itself twice. And so if I had to ask you, everybody, what is the multiplicity of the root x equals -2? Your answer would be a multiplicity of what? Yes, the multiplicity is 2. The multiplicity is the number of times that it appears. And so the root is -2, but the multiplicity equals +2 because it appears 2 times. All right, so we're talking multiplicity here because it appears twice. And so with that said, let's take a look at the grand scheme of things. Everybody, which of these factors, let's start off with the factors, which of these factors listed here is going to have a multiplicity of the greater than 2? So greater than 2 being 3 or more. List out the entire factor. Nope, stop, everybody. List out the entire factor. Natalie, yep, that's good. X plus 13. This is the factor that's going to appear 3 times because there's a 3 as an exponent. So that means that, hey, we have x plus 13 times x plus 13 times x plus 13. And so what we're going to want to do is figure out what that factor set equal to 0 gives for x. And so if we do that, everybody, what is x going to be? -13 after we set it equal to 0. And so the multiplicity here would be what? Correct. The multiplicity would be 3. Remember, multiplicity, what's the multiplier? How many times? That's what multiplicity means. How many times? That's all. Multiplicity, how many times? And so the root is -13, but the multiplicity, how many times it appears, is 3. And no worries, hey, don't say oops or anything like that. We're learning. Again, when we're learning, we're gonna make mistakes. That's the process of it. You don't know it, you have some opinion of it, and then it gets molded by facts and experience. So, with that said, who's feeling like they understood that? Right on. Right on, right on. And the thing is, I want to make sure that at the very least, we're leaving this session having a better understanding of the concept. The actual math practice, I'm going to do my best to help us get practice in, but we're only doing one of these problems at a time, especially in this webinar. So if you're joining me for one of my group tutoring sessions or a workshop, yeah, we're going to be focusing on one topic with a bunch of problems. But in these webinars, I'm just exposing you to the different concepts and I'm helping you rationalize these things. So if you're hung up on the numbers themselves and actually solving and stuff, don't worry too much about that. I want you to understand the concept first and then the practice, because the practice is going to come alone or with me in the workshops or group tutoring sessions. So with that said, now that I don't have the screen up, everybody, what is your definition of multiplicity? You have 45 seconds to type that into the chat box. Go. What is your definition of multiplicity? If you took notes, hey, this is going to be easy for you. And be clear and concise. So give me a full sentence, not how many times or more than twice, because I don't know what you're talking about. If you were to tell me that in the street, I wouldn't know what you're talking about. So in a complete sentence, what does multiplicity mean in terms of what we just talked about? There we go. A lot of great answers here. A bunch of great answers, exactly. The number of times that a root or zero of a function appears. How many times that root is multiplied, essentially, right? Exactly. The number of times that that root appears. So think about it like this. Out of the 81 total skills, if you get a question on something just like that, which again, you will get a question on the concept. You won't see an exact word for word, letter for letter question. But if you understand the concept, if they throw the word multiplicity in there, you know what they're talking about. I really don't want you guys to get tricked by these study guides that have you really memorize one and only one or maybe two ways of seeing a problem. But the thing is, they have you memorize instead of actually focusing on the concepts. You got to focus on the why, not the what. So remember to keep it simple. Analyze, then plan, then solve. Next one's up. We're looking at practice number 4 here. We're going to give ourselves a little more time for this one. We're going to give ourselves 2.5 minutes here. So read the question carefully. If you have any doubts, go ahead and draw it out, because that's what I do. When in doubt, draw it out. So now that I'm done talking and giving you even more time to process the problem, 2.5 minutes, go. All right, so if you're ready and you're just waiting for me to confirm that work, go ahead, go back in there, convince yourself that you're right. See what parts you know you understand and see what parts you don't. Three, two, one, go. What do we got? Got a lot of A's and a lot of C's. Okay. Okay. A lot of A's and a lot of C's, a lot of A's and C's, no B's or D's. All right, let's go ahead and check it out because we got a little split here. We got a little split. So here's how I'm going to go over it, guys. We're going to go over this, analyze, and only ask ourselves what's the situation and what's the question. So here we go. I'm reading along. A sheet of rectangular computer paper measures 8.5 inches by 11 inches. We're talking about computer paper. The standard margins only allow ink within the margins of Okay, I don't care about all that right now. We're talking about computer paper. It's pretty clear here. They're talking about the margins and all that stuff. I'm going to go straight to the question here. How much of the sheet's area can be marked with ink? That is something I understand. I'm talking about computer paper, talking about the margins and the ink that they allow or whatever. But the question says, how much of the sheet's area, obvious math term to me, in square inches, can be marked with ink? So everybody, do you see how I ignored all of the extra information? I'm going to get to it no matter what. I'm going to get to it. But do you see why it's important to just go straight for the context in question? Because think about it. It's honestly a waste of breath to read that it's 0.75 inch, 1 inch, 11 inches, 8.5. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter until you know what to do with those numbers. So until you know what to do with the numbers, ignore them. That's what I'm saying when I say, hey, context and question. Does that make sense intuitively? Thanks, guys, because think about it. In real life, usually you start off with the question, right? And then you ask yourself, what can I use to get my answer? You don't grab your calculator and have it in your hand and say, oh, I wonder what I can solve with this. No, you'd say, oh, I need to find what 18 times 17 is. I'm going to grab my calculator for that. So you see what I'm saying? Like you don't have your given information and it just inspires you to solve. No, what inspires you to solve is knowing what the situation is and what you need to do. What's the goal here? And then it inspires you to figure out what you can use. You don't just look at a twig and be like, I can make paper out of it. No, man. So here we go. We're saying how much of the sheet's area can be marked in ink. So what's the sheet the shape of, if I'm going to be talking to area? What's the shape of the sheet? Yeah, it's a rectangle right there. It's a rectangle. So I'm going to draw a rectangle. I'm going to draw a rectangle. So there's my rectangle. There's a sheet of paper. Okay. And they're talking about this rectangle, and I see that they say that that rectangular sheet of paper. Okay, now I got to start worrying about the given information. So I'm reading this and I'm saying, hey, the rectangular piece of computer paper that we're discussing, it measures 8.5 by 11. That's perfect. All right, cool. We're going to say that this is 8.5 inches by 11 inches. All right, this is going great so far, right? Is that all? Is that what we're taking the area of? No, right? They were very specific here. How much of the sheet's area can be marked with ink? ink right here. So your question needs to be, what information do I have about the sheet in terms of its area and anything that has to do with ink? That's what I'm looking for. And I'm looking at this first sentence here, and that gives me the information I need for the sheet, but I'm still missing the information about the ink. So don't get tricked. This is not the time to get tricked here. So moving forward, I got to find that piece of information about the ink. And I see it here. It says the standard margins only allow ink within the margins of 0.75 inch on the short side and 1 inch on the long side. Everybody, what does that mean we need to do to each side? Exactly, we got to take those margins out. So let me go ahead and show you exactly what we mean. So let's say we're drawing this, and let me actually, all right. So that black part right there, that is the block of ink or the piece of the paper that we can actually write on, or ink, all right? And so if they're saying that the margins are 0.75 inches and 1 inch, so 0.75 inches here on the short side, everybody, if that's the case, what is this actual horizontal distance got to be? Right, it's got to be 7 inches, not 7.75. And the reason is because you're taking it out of both sides. So from the left side and the right side, it's the margin from each side. So we have to subtract the 0.75 inches from both sides, meaning it's going to give us 7 inches, because we're going to have, again, 8.5 inches minus 0.75 twice. Again, this from over there and that from over there. So does everybody see that there? All right, sweet. I'm really trying to visualize it for everybody, because I know being visual in terms of math, it really helps a lot of people learn. So please let me know if I'm not doing enough in terms of visualizing. I got to know, all right? I'm here for y'all. So with that said, that's what happened there. And so if it was the misunderstanding of the word margin, then mark that down. We've got to do that, all right? Because I want us to practice the right way here so that we don't get confused in the test. So here we are. And now what are we going to do with this 11 here? What are we going to do? Don't tell me what the result is. What are we going to do with the 11? And let's be specific here, not one word. Come on, we got time here. Yeah, -1 on each side, right? So yeah, for sure. So what we're going to do is say that, hey, look, this is a margin of 1 inch. And so is right here. And so to get this right here, what we're going to have to do is take 11 and subtract 2 inches. One from over there and the other from over here. And so we're subtracting the 11 and 2 inches to receive 9 inches. So this right here is 9 inches from bottom to top. And so with that said, now that we have what we need, which is 9 inches by 7 inches, everybody, 9 times 7 in terms of the area of a rectangle. Remember, it's length times width, and we have the length and width now at 7 and 9. Boom, we found it. We're good. It's 63, and we can call it a day because A is the answer. So even if we got it right and even if we got it wrong, tell me how your understanding has changed of this type of problem. And be specific, what part of your understanding improved? And if it didn't, say what's confusing you still. So I'll give us a couple seconds here. I'll give it another minute here. Go ahead and give your honest input. So Marty says, draw it out to visualize. Nadine says, well taught. Thank you, appreciate it. Setting it up for sure. Must subtract from both sides, Tresha. Yes, exactly. Shawana, setting it up. You didn't subtract twice, Gail. So thank you for pointing out your mistake. So now we understand, oh, okay, when they mean margins, both sides, boom. Didn't read carefully, Basak, no worries. Tisha didn't subtract from both sides. You do drawings too? Hey, what's up? I like the idea of finding out what kind of answer the question seeks first. I will be teaching that to my students. Yes, of course. Because the thing is, think about business, think about reality, think about anything that's important to you. It all starts with a question, right? It all starts with a question. You want to be a teacher. The question is, how do I do that? How do I get certified? You see someone wants to be an astronaut. They always say, how do I become an astronaut? I want to become an astronaut. How do I do it? Right? Anytime anybody wants to achieve anything, the question is how? But no matter what, the first thing that happens is the question. And so once you have your question that's posed, then you say, how do I do it? And so you look for information that connects to the question. And once you have that information, you start building the relationships and formulating a plan to get there, right? So as a teacher or upcoming teacher prospectively, you're saying, hey, how do I get certified? You do a little bit of research, you find the FTCE website, they start talking about a couple things, saying you need to take these tests, do this and that, have a degree, yada, yada. And then you say, all right, cool. I have my information. So my plan is to sign up to take these certification tests. And while I'm waiting, I'm going to plan for them in the meantime. That sounds like a solid plan. Let's go ahead and execute that plan. Hopefully procrastination doesn't get in the way. But for the most part, we have the question. Get certified, the plan, well, take these tests and go through the process. And then follow that plan. Do we see how destination, plan, follow works? Yes or no? Sweet. So with that said, again, keep it simple. Destination, plan, follow, conversation, then question, then plan, then follow. Last one. Let's make the most of it. 3, 2, 1, go. I'm going to give us a minute and a half on this one, giving us a minute and a half on this one. Starting now. I'll be right back. All right. And 3, 2, 1, answers. And so I picked this question because I want to make sure that everybody understands this test is possible. It is possible. I threw in a bunch of different topics here, a bunch, but like I said, you gotta learn them all individually, and that's the great thing about it, because if you put in the time, you will get there. That's the great thing about this test, but you just have to be willing to put in the time. So if each value in a data set was increased by the same amount, which of the following statements is true? So you can still apply destination plan follow here. I'm going through this and it says, if each value in a data set was increased by the same amount, which of the following? Okay. Instant key phrase there. Which of the following? And that means that you have to look at your answer choices to get the right answer. And so with that said, which of the following statements is true? Okay, I'm looking for which one is true. And I'm going to look through the statements and I'm just going to look for the commonalities between them. I'm not going to get hung up on this yet. I'm not going to get hung up on that yet. It's distracting because you don't know the use or the purpose of that information yet. So don't trip up over the things that don't matter yet. I'm focusing on the question, which of the following is true? I'm going to read through the question choice or the answer choices and just mark what's common. Mean and range will remain the same. Mean will increase, the range will stay the same. The mean will stay the same, the range will increase. The both mean and range will increase. Oh, I got my keywords, mean and range. So here's the true question then. If we want to know which of the following is true, we need to find the relationship between if each value in a data set was increased by the same amount, how does that relate to the mean and range? How does it relate to the mean and range? So before we continue with the solution process, everyone, on a scale of 0 to 10, do we understand the purpose of the problem? And again, that purpose would be noticing the relationship between mean and range if we increased the same, the data set by the same number. Good. So with that said, let's go ahead and see which one's true. Now there's two ways you can do this. There's two ways. One, you can use an example for yourself. The other, well, you can study this to the point where this is kind of like, okay, I know the definitions here. I can understand these definitions to the point where I can give a solid answer. So let's go ahead and go through it. Here's the first way you can do it, everybody. They're saying if each value in a data set was increased by the same amount. All right. So everybody, let me ask you this. If you had a data set, what is the lowest amount of numbers that you can use to have technically a data set? What is the lowest number of numbers you can have? Chantel says 2. Actually 2. He says 2, 3, 3. I mean, it's actually 1. It's actually 1. You only need really one number to have a data set, technically. You can have a null set, which is having nothing at all. But for the purpose of the 612, we're not going to be talking about null sets. We're talking about statistics and probability. One number is technically a data set. All right. And so I'm going to keep it simple, though. I'm going to use 2 numbers because it's going to be a lot easier to visualize this with that. So everybody, let's say we're using the numbers, let's say 2 and 4. All right. Let's not complicate it. Let's not complicate it. We're just going to follow the conditions of the problem. The problem says if every value in a data set was increased by the same amount. So everybody, what should we do to this data set? Exactly, add something, right, Lee? Just add something, just add anything. It doesn't matter, add anything. But just add the same number to both values here. So someone said add 1. Stacy, thank you. Let's just go ahead and add 1 to everything. So what is gonna give? What's gonna give for 2 plus 1 and 4 plus 1? What's gonna give? Three and 5, exactly. We got 3 and 5 now. So everybody, let's go ahead and observe what's gonna happen to the mean and range. Because these are 2 numbers, it's gonna be pretty easy to see what the mean and range are. But let's first define those terms to make sure we're good to go. Everybody, how do we calculate mean again? Right, mean is the average, and average just essentially means what is the center of gravity of these sets of numbers, or this set of numbers? So the center of gravity means, hey, let's just add everything up, find out the totality of everything, and divide by the number of numbers so that we can just find that center point. So 2 plus 4 gives 6. 6 divided by 2 gives us 3. So if I'm trying to find the mean again, we're going to add the 2 plus the 4 and divide by the number of numbers. And that gives us 3 there. What about here between 3 and 5, everybody? What's the mean between 3 and 5? Quick. What do we got? Exactly. We're going to have 4. We're going to have 4. So our mean goes from 3 to 4. Let's discuss the range. Let's see what happens there. Everybody, define the range in one complete sentence in the chat box. What is range? Exactly. What's the gap? What's the difference between the highest and lowest numbers here? Exactly. And so high minus low. So with that said, what's the difference between 2 and 4, everybody? The range would be what there? Exactly. It's going to be 2. It's going to be 2, right? Nice and easy. But here's the thing. If we increased both of my numbers here by the same amount, are the numbers getting any more spread out? If you add the same number to the whole set, are the numbers going to get any more spread out? Nah, right? They're not going to get any more spread out. It's like having a field trip, RIP those days, but it's like having a field trip with your kids and you're expecting them to stay in that same line, walking with each other. In an ideal world, if they're all moving at the same pace, then they're not going to be splitting up. So with that said, what's the range going to be between 3 and 5? It's still going to be 2. It stays the same here. If we're looking at the mean, what we see is that it increases. It increased by what number, everybody? Exactly. It increased by 1. And where else do we see that 1? Oh, that was what we added to the whole set. Think about it like this, everybody. Mean is your center of gravity. If the entire data set moves by a certain amount, how much does the center move by? Well, think about it. If everything moved by the same amount, the center moved by that exact same amount. And that's why you see the mean go from 3 to 4 after adding 1 to everything. Everybody, are you going to leave this session knowing a little more than you did before about all this? Because I'm trying to make it interesting. I'm not trying to present math to you in a way that's like dry, boring, and it sounds like I'm reading out of a textbook, because that's exactly why I became a teacher. People who read out of textbooks just show that they're not teachers. They're not prepared for that specific topic. And that's unacceptable to me. So with that said, yep, the answer will be what, everybody? Exactly. The answer is B. The mean will increase because that center of gravity of all those numbers shifts by the same amount as what you change the set by. And then range, if you move everything together, range is how far spread out it is. So if we move everything together, it's not going to get any more spread out apart. So the range stays the same. It has to. And so that's how I teach math, guys. I teach it conceptually as well as procedurally. Procedurally meaning, oh, that memorized way that you guys know how to do things. Like, oh, mean is average. Average is mean, but I don't know the definition. But conceptually means you understand that mean is like the center of gravity of numbers. Conceptual understanding is knowing how to talk about the math in a way where you can relate it to real life or make sense of it to somebody else. But procedurally, you only know the procedure. You only know what the hard bottom line facts are without actually knowing why that's the case. And so it's important that we know both of those methods. And that's what I teach when I go through our 612 boot camp. But with that said, did you get anything valuable out of this experience today? I want to know, because I've been working so hard on this webinar and so hard for the boot camp. Are you guys benefiting from this in any way, shape, or form? And if so, how? Hey, Lee, I love that. Yes, if you prepare properly. That's the thing. Because the thing is, you can't you can't expect success to be an accident, especially with a test like this. You have to plan for this thing. You have to go through and make the hard choice of going against your procrastinative habits and actually sitting down and getting it done. You got to sit down and get it done. If you don't, well, guess what? Time's going to pass you by. That certification will too. And you're going to be left wondering why you couldn't step up to make sure that 120 to 150 kids a year had a teacher, especially given this is a 612 math. Any type of math teacher is needed in this world. And so with that said, I got to make sure that you guys become teachers, especially if you're trying to teach math like I do. So with that said, we've always put you first. We always will. That's not even a doubt. And so I want to give you guys access to that 612 Math Bootcamp course. It's on pre-sale right now. But the thing is, if you use that stay-at-home code, we extended it specifically for the 612 Bootcamp. It's $75. It's on pre-sale right now. And if you use that stay-at-home code, guess what? It is $37.50. And guess what's included in that thing? Just about 200 practice problems with video solutions. I'm going to be making some updates the moment that I create it in terms of adding in the vocabulary terms. And within the next 2 months after the release, I'm going to be adding in 2 practice tests. That's pretty nice. So with that said, go ahead and pull out your phone, scan this icon there, or go straight to this link. I can go ahead and send it out in an email as well right after the session. But the thing is, you got to take advantage of the pre-sale. This is only going to be up for the next couple of days until tomorrow night. And then after that, everything's closed. We're closing everything up until we release this thing officially on Sunday. Yep, those video solutions are explained, of course, by me. I am not going to trust anybody else with that right now because I know that you guys really understand it when I take it step by step with that patient approach. I know you guys benefit from it. And not a lot of teachers, especially businessmen, when they try to make videos, have the patience to actually go through it, you know? So I'll never forget why I do what I do. It's for y'all. And that's why it's easy to be patient. So with that said, I'm leaving this up here, guys. Seriously, take advantage of it. It's only up until tomorrow night. This incredible deal, honestly, because the thing is, by the time I'm done with all of the updates, this is going to be worth $150 because I'm going to be adding in, again, like I said, a couple of practice tests, 75 questions a piece. I'm going to be adding in those vocab sheets. I want to add in things little by little. But the first thing that you're going to get is the set of 150. It's about almost closer to 200 questions with video solutions for each of the individual skills all the way through. So what I want to do moving forward in this moment right now, I want to know what questions y'all have that I can answer to help you understand this process a little easier or to get registered for this here. So I'm going back up a little bit. I saw that I missed a couple of things. So Valentina, yes, shout out to learning multiplicity, right? That's something that if you would have seen it on the test, you would have freaked out. But taking the 20 minutes here with me, hey, I know what it means. Multiplicity, how many times? Because multiply. Things like that, right? Stacy, explaining it to make it easier. That's what I do. Exactly. That's how I do it. How to plan. That's very important, Kimberly. Going down here, Sheila, you need to know how to figure out how to get the mean and range. That's fine too, right? You got to know what you don't know. So point those things out and make it happen. Ashley, you teach algebra and algebra 1 on a temporary certificate, so I'm fine with these topics. Are you going to hold a probability statistics or calculus session? That's going to be in that course. So, of course, you can go ahead in that course and find those in there. And by popular demand, if people want sessions on calculus and things like that, I can host extra sessions and then put those recordings into the bootcamp course. We'll think about how we're going to word it out, how we're going to do it. But if you guys need those extra sessions, for sure, we'll make them. We'll make it happen. Yeah, I'm happy you guys are ready for that boot camp because I'm excited too. I've been slaving away at that thing. It's been a fun process to make, but obviously when you've been doing something for a long time, it wears on you. So I'm glad that it's out because I know that you guys are going to benefit from it. I really do. Can I put the link in the chat, please? Let's see if I can find this in less than 20 seconds. So let's count. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and got it. Okay, whew. That was awesome. All right, there you go, guys. There is the link. I'm spamming it into the chat box. So there it is. Yeah, we're going to have more trainings on this for sure, because I understand that you're going to want that live hands-on. And so we'll plan for that for sure, especially for those harder topics to teach you how to get it done. And yes, it is split by topic. Yep, it's split into drill sets of question sets of about 4 to 6 questions apiece, totaling all the way up until those 200 problems, going through each competency. So Nadine, it really depends on to your question and how long should you study before taking it. Honestly, you need to go ahead and really assess that yourself, because it's so many different topics going from Algebra 1 all the way to Calculus. And so you need to know where you stand. And so by going through the boot camp, at least maybe poking around with a couple of problems here and there, your body, your mind is going to tell you exactly where you're at, right? You know yourself and you know if you're ready or not. So tackle those problems and see how long you need. Reach out to me if you have it, email me. And what we can do is we can make a plan depending on how you feel about it. And Fran, yeah. So I said it's split into those 5 to 6 drill sets there. Yeah, you're welcome, Natalie. Got you there. Do you do one-on-one training? Yes, I do, Sheila. I do. Just go ahead and email me, Anderson@thelearningliaisons.com. Just go ahead and email me, Anderson@thelearningliaisons.com, and I'll be more than happy to go through one-on-one trainings, all right? So we'll talk about the details. All you have to do is email me. Natalie, you need calculus help? Well, guess what? I taught AP Calculus for 2 years and actually built a lot of material for some stuff way back when. So I got a lot of material to help you out with in that sense. Do you have 9 to 12 webinars in bootcamp? Praxis 5161. Fran, this is the 5161. This is it. So I see that this is the issue. And yes, I've taken the 5161, of course. This is for the FTCE. I have the Praxis link as well. We'll have to create it. So if you are in Praxis, just look out for these emails, because we're going to send you the link to the course that's going to have everything in there as well. Because the thing is, for the FTCE and Praxis, they cover the exact same material, again, minus the teaching strategies that FTCE has. But we're going to make a separate course for Praxis, because we don't want to give you extra information that you don't need to cover. We don't want to confuse you. So anybody who's taking Praxis, hold off on buying this. We will absolutely still give this to you for this deal at $37.50. We will make it happen, I promise, okay? Lee says, it's been a very long time since you took math, and I never took calculus, so I have been really anxious and tackle the 612 math with just like a little reassurance that you think I can pass it after going through the boot camp. Yeah, Lee, for sure. You just have to take it problem at a problem. You cannot sit there and try to do it all at the same time. I promise you, Lee, that if you start small, problem to problem, concept to concept, it will make sense. Hey, I'm glad that we can make the boot camp for you guys. I promise. Oh, yeah, and everybody who is taking Praxis, if you just so happen to sign up for this by accident or whatever it may be, don't worry either way, because we'll probably look for everybody that's in Praxis in that FTCE and just automatically transfer you into the other course anyway, okay? We'll do it automatically anyway for you. But don't do it if you haven't done it already. We'll just go ahead and transfer those who mistakenly bought it. So Amy, the Praxis link is going to come out once the FTCE, once all of the videos are already filmed and everything. I just have to edit everything and put it all together. And so once I have it all set up, boom, I have the course, and then I can just copy the course and rename it for Praxis and adjust it with what it needs. So just give me probably Saturday latest, but we'll drop that link on Sunday and send an email out to all of our Praxis folks for that half off. All right? Shamara, too late, already did it. No worries, Shamara. We'll take care of that for you. It's all good. I got you. Nadine, this is not a book. Again, we don't do study guides here. That's not the Learning Liaisons way. This is a video course. So you're going to be able to download all the problems if you'd like, for sure. That way you can try them out by hand. And then you get to watch the video solutions of me going over them. All right? Hey, no worries, Fran. Thank you for coming. Basak, thank you for coming. Marty, thank you for coming. And Nadine, yeah, so I'm going to be reviewing strategies throughout every single problem. I review it, and I show you what you need to know, what's important, and that way you can use that to move forward. Yeah, Kimberly, Saturday, Sunday, latest, the day that it comes out. We have all of our Praxis folks in our email system. So we will email every Praxis folks saying, hey, look, it's out, get it, you're all good. And we'll give you the code so you can get half off. Yeah, so again, my Praxis folks, no worries. Yep, I got your back. So with that said, everybody, any more questions? Any more questions? Hey, Lee, I get that sometimes. And my goal is to be kind of like the world's teacher in terms of math. So I'm hoping that one day I can help someone avoid saying that. Because although that's a kind and you know, a pleasing phrase to see saying, hey, I love your style and I wish I had you, I wish people didn't have to say that. And so I want to basically dedicate my life and my life's work to making sure people don't have to say that. Hey, Shawana. Yeah, I'll see you next week, girl. Sounds good. Make sure to focus on those things, and we'll meet in that session. Remember to let me know what days work best for you next week. I think we scheduled a soft Tuesday, but we're gonna confirm that. All right. So just let me know. Hey, Basak, so is this different than 612? No, this is the 612 bootcamp. Basak, this is the updated version that's going to come out. Well, not updated. It's literally brand new. We're not using any of the old stuff. We've updated it to be more aligned with the test. Yeah. Thanks, Lee.